Conversations with Iris. Here's your host, my loving wife, Iris.
Hola, mi gente bonita. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode of Conversations with Iris. This podcast has always been about something deeper than just success. Ooh, I love the way that sounds because my podcast, our platform that you're listening to right now, it's about transformation. It's about those moments in life where something falls apart and we think it's the end. But you know what? Sometimes we just gotta get up from that mess, and that ending is actually the beginning of the most powerful chapter of our lives. Isn't that wonderful how life is? And before we dive into today's amazing conversation, don't forget to download, follow, and share the podcast with your friends and families and your community. Come on, spread the love. Tell me if an episode sparked your heart, changed you. Tell me if an episode you needed to hear it or someone else. Continue to share it. The more you share these stories, the more we continue to just uplift those voices around us. We continue to inspire each other and spread a little light and motivation in the world. So go and grab your cafecito. I call it cafe con leche. Grab your tea, grab your wine, and get comfortable because today's conversation is going to be a great one. Because we're going to talk about getting fired. We're going to talk about getting fired, losing your job, and feeling like the rug was pulled from underneath you, the fear, the embarrassment, that uncertainty that I know that a lot of us have gone through. But what if the thing that broke you was actually the thing that built you? Think about that. I'm going to repeat that. What if the thing that broke you was actually the thing that built you up? What if losing your job, that the job that you thought you needed was actually the doorway to a life that you were not meant to live, but you were like, wow, I should have done this sooner. So today's conversation is about turning setbacks into purpose, about resilience, about listening to that voice inside of you that says, there has to be something more to life than this. And today's guest lived that story in the most extraordinary way. But before I bring her in, let's start with a little reflection here. I want to start with a simple question for everyone listening today because I think this is very important. And I typically don't do these on my podcast, but I feel like this conversation is going to be deep and resonate with a lot of you. Think about a moment in life where something didn't go the way you planned. Just think about that. Maybe a job didn't work out, a relationship ended. Maybe you were rejected for something you wanted so deeply. Ooh, we've been there. Preach it, girl. At that time, it probably hurt deep, right? But looking back now, did that moment actually redirect you to somewhere better? Let that sink in for a moment. So today I'm joined by someone whose story is just truly extraordinary. Let me tell you about this wonderful guest of mine. She went from being unexpectedly fired to building a company that would eventually employ over 1,300 employees across 30 states. That's just like phenomenal. But what makes her story even more powerful is that she built this company. Yes, she built it with a mission and a purpose to hire people who often get overlooked in the workforce. We're talking about veterans, disabled veterans, military spouses, and people with disabilities, and people facing major barriers out there in employment. She didn't just build a company, she built an opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, and she built hope. And she turned one of the hardest moments of her life into something that would impact thousands of families. Hallelujah. I love this. Today we're talking to the author of Fire to Inspire. Ooh, I love the way that sounds, and the founder of the Pearl Interactive Network. I want to go ahead and extend this warm welcome to the wonderful Bienvenidos, Merry Korn. Welcome to Conversations with Iris, Mary. How are you?
Oh, great, Iris. So nice to meet you.
Oh, I just love what you're doing out there in society, the work, everything, girl. You are just awesome all the way around.
Thank you.
I want to definitely take the opportunity and just go back to that moment, Mary, where, everything changed for you, but take it even way back. Tell the listeners a little bit about you. Who is Mary Korn and what led up to, unfortunately, that time of your life, losing your employment, and then what came out of your head, or just like a little bulb came out, like, I got to do something better. So tell our listeners a little bit about you.
Okay. So, something very formative about who I am and what happened in my life is that I was the child uh, of two Holocaust survivors. My mother went into the concentration camps at the age of 13 and was incredibly courageous.
Wow.
At the age of 13, she was put on a death camp car, a cattle car that was destined to a death camp.
Wow.
And on that car, she was with her sister.
Mhm.
They saw the apparition of their father who had passed. And the apparitions of their father said, "You have to jump from this train because you are meant to live." And they jumped, even though the car was filled with SS military, Gestapo military with machine guns.
Oh my God, I could only
And
imagine.
but the reason I'm telling you about my mother is because she had everything to do with the courage that I needed when I needed it the most. And not only did she jump off of a train meant for the death camps, but near the end of the concentration camps were evacuated, and people incarcerated in the camps had to walk in the winter without food, without clothes, without coats. And she escaped because she knew she wouldn't live. And fast forward, she was rescued by the Red Cross, and she came to this country as a single mother with two children under the age of 8. And I tell you about my mother because at the age of 46, I was fired from a job with two daughters. So it's almost like, in some ways, repeated history. And here I am at the age of 46 without a job, two kids getting ready to go to college, and no foreseeable income. And there were two influences that happened to help me move on. One of them is the role model of my mother, who was absolutely fearless. And the other was a movie I had seen called Schindler's List. And
Oh
Iris,
yeah.
had you seen that movie?
I love Schindler's List. I love it. I am obsessed with history. That's a minor that I went through school with. That's my
Oh,
minor, and
interesting.
we did a lot of Holocaust work on that and research, and that is one of my favorite movies. Like it's just beautiful. I hate how it does show the what Jews went through, but then again, I just love because it's real. It's true history. We need to have more movies like that, if you know what I mean.
It was so powerful
Oh yeah.
that um, when things started to unfold in terms of, here I am at, I call it in my book, below ground zero. I was, when I finally figured out and got off that space of, oh my God, am I going to live under a bridge with my children? That when I finally figured out what was going to unfold, the movie Schindler's List saved lives because he created jobs where, by the way, they never produced anything, which I always thought was kind of the funny, comical.
Yeah.
He rescued 1,000 people to do work, but they never produced anything because he didn't want them to produce munitions that would only help the Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
what inspired me there was there are so many people, especially people who have barriers, people living in impoverished areas because they don't have jobs, disabled veterans, people with disabilities. The higher the disability, the higher the percentage of them that don't work. And then there are certain types of disabilities, like people who are blind or paraplegic and don't have use of their hands, or people who have hearing issues, that their percent of employment is between 5 and 15%.
Wow.
And I didn't save lives, But what I did was create an opportunity for meaning and purpose. And I think it's a universal phenomenon that we all crave and need purpose.
Yeah, I agree.
So this tells you who I am. But what I haven't shared with you is how I went from unemployed with no foreseeable income to building the company. And when you're ready for me to unfold that story, I am ready. But do you have
Let's do
questions
it.
or comments?
No, I would love for you to dive into that because I know that it was a lot. I mean, as you mentioned, first of all, I just want to reiterate what you just said because I love the fact that your mother is such a host for such an inspiration in your life. And love that you mentioned Schindler's List too. I mean, not a lot of people use that, as a driver or source of inspiration. And going fast forward, let's fast forward a little bit. I mean, as you mentioned, you had lost your job and suddenly you were sitting across from your boss and an attorney and being told you're fired. So let's definitely jump into that. Please do so.
Sure. So, okay, so this is like peeling the layers of an onion. And
Yes, do it.
Iris, just jump in here anytime, ask questions, comments.
Yeah.
So I had only been on the job for 2 months, and I never should have taken the job in the first place because I went from one boring job I had held and a high level position. I was a vice president of marketing for a national medical management company, which is why I was in tree and healthcare.
Ah, I love that.
But I never should have taken the job because if I had done the internal excavation, I would have known the job would never have been a fit for me. So the job felt wrong almost pretty much from day one. And I wasn't surprised I was going to be fired because number one, I really didn't like the job and I didn't fit in at all.
Wow.
So when I was fired after 2 months, it wasn't a surprise, but it was like the ground beneath me caved. I was terrified. I was beyond scared, and I was lost. I was so lost. And I've always been spiritual, but nothing like a tragedy makes you a greater believer in this divine source, because even if I had doubts that there was a universal divine source, I knew I had to believe in one because I knew that I needed help and I was beyond terrified.
Oh my goodness. I can only imagine.
So then what happened was a week after I was fired, I was taking a walk in an alley by my house. And as I'm walking through the alley, I'm praying. And I'm praying. I think I was probably talking to myself because I was so scared. And my prayer was, okay, here's the deal. Because I believe you can bargain with the universe if it's for good.
Yes.
And I said, God, I'm asking you something, which is just tell me what to do because I am so lost. I'm at ground zero and I can't be more lost. But this is the deal I'll make with you. If you tell me what to do next, I promise you for the rest of my life, I will use all of my talents, all of my energies, all of my resources to pay it back. So just tell me what to do because
Mm.
I don't know. And I heard a voice, and the voice said 2 words. And I know this is woo woo, Iris, and I don't know if this is too weird for your listeners.
No, tell girl, we talk about everything and anything here. Go ahead. You're an open book. Just say it how it is. It's all good. We love it.
So the words I heard were medical associations. I'm like, what? Really?
Oh no.
But I thought, you know what? Okay, I'm going to go with it. So I went home and I immediately started calling executive directors of all the Ohio medical associations. And I'm based out of Columbus. And I left a message, which, by the way, I write about in my book. I did not ask them for jobs because when you call people and ask for jobs, number one, most people probably don't have jobs. And that could be a turnoff because as soon as they don't think they have a job, they're not going to return your call. So I had careful, very simple scripts. And the very simple script was, I'm calling not because I have a job, I want a job, but I'm calling because I want to have a conversation with you to understand how my 20 years of sales, marketing, and healthcare experience lend themselves to your industry. And I write about this in my book. And by the way, I have workbooks on this for free on my website. It's called The Holy Grail of Informational Interviews.
Oh, okay.
And I started working with getting informational interviews just like I would a job. I would get up at 8 o'clock in the morning. I would have a list in front of me and I would be dogged about making calls. And my goal was to hold 4 to 6 informational interviews a week. One of the informational interviews was a medical association. And by the way, I always like to meet with people in person because it's a deeper connection if you can.
I
But
agree.
but you don't have to meet with them in person. And I had these informational interviews where I would do all kinds of research before I met with them. And with ChatGPT and all Claude, the work you put into doing informational interviews can now be done in minutes, whereas when I started this, it was 20 years ago. But I learned everything about that medical association. I learned what their challenges were. I learned about the executive director. And the conversations were well thought out questions about what are your needs, what are your challenges. And what I learned by these informational interviews is that the whole association industry always struggled with non-member dues because every single association needs to generate revenues.
Yeah.
And so I started doing these informational interviews, and about 6 weeks later, one of the executive directors had a conversation with me and he said, I cannot hire you, but what I can do is if you raise money for sponsorships, I will give you a percent of what you raise. And I said, okay. So I did the math and I knew no matter how much I raised, I could not afford a livelihood for myself and my children. And I started to hire completely able bodied people to make outbound cold calls, which is a really, really hard job to hire for. And my fiance at the time said, try this woman. She's a quadriplegic. Her mind is totally good. Her voice is great. She's intelligent. She's smart. She's driven, but she has no use of her arms and her legs.
Oh my
And he said,
goodness.
I think you should try working with her.
Wow.
So at the time, I was so new in business that she was in Cleveland, I was in Columbus. I went to meet with her family. And her story is amazing, and she's since passed. But this is a woman whose parents had to pick her up and get her out of bed because she couldn't do it herself. She couldn't eat with her hands because she had no use of her hands. So all the food that she ate was through a straw.
Wow.
And before I left her house, her family had already converted her. Before I left her house, they'd converted her dining room into her office. And the miraculous thing is this woman raised $140,000 for the association within 4 months.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Oh my God. And so
And
many people hear that Mary, it's a person that's so disabled, like this young lady was, and look at what she did. That's amazing.
the stories were so profound. And I thought, okay, if I could do it for her, I could keep doing this. So then I hired a man who was a veteran, not service disabled. He came back from Vietnam totally fine. He fell off a roof, became a quadriplegic because he broke his back.
Oh my God. Wow.
And we put him to work using a rehab engineer from the state of Ohio. And this man was so motivated to work that there were days he couldn't get out of bed. So we had an engineer put a nursing bed or a hospital bed over his a hospital table over his bed so that he could work from his bed. And he made outbound calls using technology for an insurance company that needed insurance renewals.
Wow. From
And
his
I
bed. From his bed. I
from his
love it.
bed. And
Wow.
he both of them changed my life because they taught me that I was not hiring people with disabilities. I was hiring them for their abilities. And there was a work ethic that I'd never seen in the corporate workforce because, people would have a headache and they wouldn't come to work, or their hair hurt and they didn't come to work.
Yeah.
But what these two showed me is that they appreciated the gift of getting to work.
Mm.
And the day after Christmas, when I hired Tom, he was the quadriplegic, his wife sent me a 9-page handwritten letter. And she said, "You do not know the effect you have had on our lives because for 29 years, we came home and told our husband, or my husband, what we did, but he never had anything to tell us.
Oh my
And for the first time in 29 years, he told us what he did.
Wow.
And he has a reason to get up every morning and he's excited.
It's wonderful. And then we complain about it so much. Like you were so right when you said people call in for their headache. People call in because of little things. And these people suffered and are on disability. And look at all they did. And look how much difference you made in their life. That's something that we need to actually look at and say, wow, I should be grateful I have a job, but look at what this person did, from their bed. That's amazing, Mary.
Iris, they taught me, they've changed my life. Because any of us, any of your listeners could feel really, really sorry for themselves, especially your listeners who may have lost jobs.
Yeah.
But the employees I was gifted to work with from the beginning till the very end is they taught me that no matter they didn't have eyesight, they didn't have use of their hands, that they were so grateful to get to come to work.
Wow.
So I started hiring more and more people with disabilities. And somehow, someone at the Rehab Services of Commission of Ohio found out about the work I was doing. And this again is that divine thread. I get a call from the state of Ohio Rehab Services Commission, and they said they had an $80,000 grant and they had to spend the money.
Oh,
If I could put together a business plan, they would let me, they would spend the money for me. They wouldn't give me the money, but they would spend it for me and to tell them what I needed. And I asked for three things. I asked for technology that enabled me to keep hiring people with disabilities to work from home. I needed laptops, and I needed a recruiting team to help me find people with disabilities that were eligible to work for me. And
mm,
that's exactly what they gave me. But the life changer was when I did that business plan. And for listeners that are lost and think they want to own a business, Start with that business plan because that's your GPS. That will tell you everything you need to know in terms of money, in terms of resources, in terms of timing, in terms of revenue, in terms of expense. I can't extol the advantages of a business plan more.
Mm, that's amazing. $80,000 from the state of Ohio, and you produce a wonderful business plan or business proposal, and it came to fruition. So, what happened after that? Because, I mean, you are building or you build a social enterprise designed to help people who face barriers to unemployment. You're starting to open up those doors, right? So, I bet that mission became more important to you then.
Oh, I just felt like through the sequence of these amazing people who just showed up right when I needed them, like we did get the technology, but then a woman who I had worked with, my previous job, I found out she was looking for a job and she was brilliant. And she worked with a team of technology experts out of India to create a phone system that enabled people without sight or without use of their hands to work from home. I mean,
Wow.
there were all these divine threads of the right people, the right talent just showing up because success is always a team sport.
Wow. I mean, going from zero to 1,300 employees across 30 states, I mean, it's an incredible accomplishment. I mean, come on, Mary, that's amazing, Mary, first of all. I mean,
It,
what was that most unexpected like leadership lesson you learned while scaling the company? Because slowly after the brand came to fruition, which was nice, you got this technology and these individuals that did not have any you know ability to see were able you were able to get systems to help them perform their job. Tell us a little bit about that.
um, what frustrated me was the work I got with associations was all sporadic. So we would raise money and then we would sell all the sponsorships, and I would have to put people on the bench indefinitely until another contract came up. And I thought, you know what? I'm not offering competitive salaries, I'm not offering competitive benefits, and I'm not offering stability. And therefore, I need to pivot. And that's the thing for business owners who might be listening is you have to look at when you need to pivot. And I knew I needed to pivot to a different market. And I attended a workshop about the beauty of government contracts. And what I was sat there bedazzled because the speaker talked about how government contracts can be very large, they could be long term. And I had stars in my eyes because I knew that through government contracts, I could give competitive wages, career pathways, and competitive benefits. And
Mm,
that way, the people who I had hired, who had been unemployed for years and years because they're the most unemployable populations, I could give them job security.
wow.
So I didn't know how to do it. And that's the thing for your listeners, Iris. Don't contemplate, don't stop doing things because you don't know what you're doing, because I never knew what I was doing, ever. I figured it out, but I knew if I waited till I figured it out, it would never go anywhere. So I became entranced and I knew I had to get government contracts. So government contracts is really, really, really hard.
Oh my God.
So I was making enough money in the commercial market that I invested 2 years into marketing in the government space before I got my first contract. But boy, was it worth it because the first big government contract I got, we went from 20 employees to 340 employees.
Wow.
But that was after 7, 8 years in business.
Mm,
So my success was not overnight. It was a really slow success.
wow. That is awesome. I mean, And then after that, like, okay, so 2 years, you had mentioned that you gave to the, government agencies or for the government contracts to come to fruition. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I'm curious, like, for those 2 years spanned, one before you were able to achieve, growing the employment empire. What were those 2 years like, if you don't mind?
How? How?
My bad. I bet.
Because I didn't know what I was doing. And government contracts are, it's such a hard nut to crack
Hmm.
because the contracts are very long term. You have to, but I spent a lot of time getting to know people who knew what they were doing. And I keep coming back to informational interviews. I talked to everybody and anybody who knew anything about government contracts. And one thing I learned was you have to network in DC and you have to work with somebody who has a Rolodex that could take you and introduce you and show you the ropes.
Hmm.
And that's exactly what I did. I spent many evenings in my friend's basement in DC. By the way, it was a nice basement, so it wasn't terrible or anything. But I would go and I would network and network and network. And finally, I found a man who was uh, a veteran. His brother, his identical twin, was a 100% disabled veteran. And he said, "Here's the deal. I will work with you for a minimal cost, but I want to have ownership share. I want to have phantom shares so that my success is rewarded when you sell the company." And I did that. And I was just, I keep coming back to my mother. I was going to be fearless and going to DC and networking when I had no clue of what I was doing. But it yielded tremendous results. So when we scaled to 340 employees, I continued in the same vein, and we eventually, with the help of hiring some really good business development people, we grew to 1,300 employees.
Wow.
But it
Across
was
30
not
states.
overnight.
Yeah. Across 30 states. I want to clarify that you did that. That's amazing.
Yes.
That's an incredible accomplishment. Mary, I feel like a lot of us, this is inspirational, by the way. I love how you gave a lot of these disabled veterans and people with disabilities the opportunity to get out of the bed and work and feel like they could do something in their life than just staying home. You know what I mean? So, what advice do you have for our listeners out there? Somebody who may be disabled, a veteran out there that it's 100% not able to walk or move their limbs or whatever their condition is. I mean, there's a lot of people, or even normal people like us, and I hate to say normal, like just regular folks like us,
Oh, yes.
they're listening right now who may feel trapped and in a job they hate. I mean, in a job that they hate or terrified of losing the one they have. What would you say to someone or to those individuals, regardless of what their current situation is, disabled or not, who feel stuck between that fear and purpose? What would you say to them?
There are three things. And by the way, the three bullet points I'm about to give you, I have free workbooks on my website, which is www.firedtoinspired.com. Firedtoinspired.com. The answer to your question is threefold. Number one, fear is not an option. Fear is not an option. You have to get off the fear and move forward. And I have this great workbook free on my website that people could sign up and download. And the the workbook goes into detail, asking people probing questions and giving pointers on things to do to overcome fear. And just two or three of them is exercise, because you may not feel any control over your lives, but one thing you can control is your body. And exercise is mentally, it's proven over and over again, it's mentally and physically good for you.
Mm.
The second one, and I have a list of like 20 on my site. The second one is your past is over. You could dwell on it, you could stay stuck there forever, and it doesn't do you any good because you can't undo it. Your future, nobody knows what the future will be. So the only thing you have right now is right now, this present moment. So you breathe and you do what you can in this moment and put blinders on to what's going to happen in the future and what happened in the past. And the third one is prayer, because you can do it all the time. I believe it works personally, and it's free.
Yeah.
So those are just three of them. So you have to overcome fear. And then the second thing is it is your duty and obligation to dive deep into what is your life purpose. And I have a workbook on your life purpose, again, free. And it's so important for people to do an internal excavation of what it is that intrigues them, moves them, thrills them, and makes time disappear. So, Iris, you told me you have this passion for this,
Yes.
what you do. And I wouldn't be surprised, especially with your husband doing what he does, is if one day your podcast became your primary way of making a living,
Yes.
because it's obvious that you feel like you have a message to communicate to the world.
Mm. Yes, I do. And I love that. And you know what really stood out to me, and I never heard it mentioned like that? Doing an external escape. How do you say that? I can't say that word right.
Internal excavation. Do it
Excavation. And that's
ex-
my Spanish coming in. You like that? My listeners are probably giggling and laughing. Oh, she's coming out there. So, okay, I love how you mentioned that because I never heard of that. And I love what you mentioned. Like, we got to figure out what is our purpose in life and prayer. There is power and faith in prayer. And I'm telling you, I pray every day because, like you said, I would love to make this my full time job. And eventually, I know it will come to fruition. But I love that, Mary. I just had to, like, just say that to you. And thank you for mentioning that.
Iris, you're several steps ahead of most, because it took me 46 years to figure out what my mission, my purpose is.
Mm.
It took me 46 years.
Oh my goodness. But it's never too late, right? Remember we talked about that before we got on.
Never,
It's never too
never.
late to find out your purpose in life. That's the beauty of life. Even though life is short, it's never too late to find out what you're good at
Yes.
or what your
So,
purpose is. And I love that.
so
Mary,
this, go
go
ahead.
ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, no, please continue.
Oh no, I love this. I love that you mentioned that, you have so much great free work out there. You have Fire to Inspire. I love the link, the Tune with that Fire to Inspire. And I just want to reiterate to our listeners, I mean, the three steps here to always consider that fear is not an option. Your past is over. You can't undo it. You got to live that present. And last but not least, prayer. There is power in prayer and faith. I love and Mary, before we jump in here and as we come to a closure, I want to do something fun. I like to do these. I just started doing these in my podcast, and they're like creative, rapid fire segment questions. And you just give me whatever comes to your brain, like whatever the first thing comes. I want to ask you six questions, and I want you to just tell me what comes out of your brain. Like,
Sure.
I want to start with the first one. What is one word that describes resilience? Tell me what comes to your head first.
Uh, for those of your listeners who have a vision, start with your vision and be relentless in the pursuit. My vision was I always wanted to have a minimum of 1,000 employees. So the answer to your question is fearless pursuit of a vision, but know your vision.
I like that. The second one here, the biggest myth about success. What is that?
It's never solo. It's always a team sport. No one is ever a success without a team around them.
Mm, mm. The third one, a habit that helped you rebuild your life. We gotta know your secret.
A habit to help you rebuild your life. Get out of bed every day and make your bed as the start of your day
Mm,
because you've accomplished something
girl,
already.
that's deep. That's deep. I love it. I love it. And something people underestimate about leadership. Oh, this one's deep.
That it's not a top down. It's not a top down venture. A good leader talks a whole lot less and has their team speak and they listen. They listen to what the valuable team around them has to say.
Hmm. The most powerful lesson failure ever taught you.
The most powerful lesson, pardon me?
The most powerful lesson failure ever taught you.
Never, 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 never give up.
Mm. And I think the last one here, I think that you already answered it, but maybe we could add a little bit of a twist to that. If someone is at rock bottom today, they just feel out of it, what is that first step they should take tomorrow morning?
Uh, get out of bed, make the bed, and surround yourself by people who have your back. Have
Mm.
coffee with them, talk to them, go to people who are safe, connect with your people, and remember, I, and I don't mean to be arrogant by saying this. I believe we all are on this earth for a mission. Find your mission. And if you don't know how to find it, uh, get books on it. Absolutely download my workbook, but start by getting out of bed because staying in bed is simply not an option.
Mm. Get out of bed. Remember that. I love that. I feel like that's the biggest takeaway there. Just take out of bed. Get out of bed. Just get out of it. I love that, Mary. I want to thank you so much for this. And I want to say thank you so much as we come near here to a closure for sharing your story with us today. I mean, your journey is such a powerful reminder that sometimes those little moments that felt like setbacks or feel like setbacks for us in our lives are actually setting us up for something much bigger than we
Yes,
ever imagined. That's the whole
yes,
beauty of this. That's the biggest takeaway for our listeners today that they should acknowledge. It is never too late to know what your purpose is. And who
never.
cares how old you are? How old, it doesn't matter. Yes, life is short, but it's never ever too late.
Right.
And that's so incredibly inspiring what you've done. But before we wrap up, I know that you had mentioned to our listeners, you have wonderful free work out there. You have so much resources, firetoinspire.com. And I just want our listeners to stay connected with you and learn about your work. So where can they continue to follow you? Get a copy of your book, your journey, and learn more about everything else that you're doing. Where can they find you?
They could leave messages on my site, or they could go to my LinkedIn, which is Mary Merry Korn Korn, and they could leave messages.
Thank you so much for that. Mary, again, I want to thank you for being here and sharing such an honest and inspirational story with our audience today. I just want to thank you so much for choosing my platform. This has been phenomenal.
Iris, before you hang up, when you stop recording, I just have a question for you.
Sure, sure.
Okay.
No
And it
problem.
was a joy, Iris. Thank you. And your questions were beautiful.
Of course, of course. And to everyone listening today, I mean, if today's conversation resonated with you, remember this. Sometimes the moment that feels like your biggest failure is actually the moment that life may be redirecting you to something better, your true purpose. I hope this inspirational conversation touches your soul, changes your life. Share with somebody that needs to listen to this right now. It is never too late to find your purpose. Without further ado, con mucho amor, this has been Conversations with Iris. Thank you all. Until next time, keep believing in your journey. Thank you all.